So we're on British summer time. It's the 18th of October, 2025. John, it's really good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too, Miles.
Although I just think that having a rusty air conditioner immediately behind you, could you slightly, nothing wrong with the air conditioner.
Yeah, there.
Well, this is, I had, people don't seem to like me very much. There it is. According to Dr. Amir, I had a telephone, the equivalent of a telephone pole, going through my solar plexus, which is very difficult to get into narrow, like doors and things. You got this telephone pole, etherically. I didn't have the
hmm
stake or a stalk or something like that. I had a telephone pole. It's so demeaning. I mean, at least a
Yeah,
vampire has at least a decent thing, but I mean this. So that was interesting.
yeah.
But that's this is the basis, and it's really good to see you. You came very highly recommended from certain sources.
So
Very
I
nice,
hear.
yeah. But one thing, if you could sort of very briefly explain where your background is, and there's an awful lot of stuff you've got out there, which is hours and hours of really important stuff. And I think you've got
Yes,
some books, have you? The
yes.
Man
I
with
have written.
Periwinkle Eyes.
Yes, I have written 3 books. My fourth one releases ideally in November. The gods and my editors willing. Um, and the so yes, and they are all they're. It is part 4 of a 6-part series about just one altar of mine. So a little about my background. In my cover life, or the I refer to my cover life as the save file. Um, I was born in Colorado Springs in 2001. Uh, I now live in an undisclosed location elsewhere in the U.S. Um, with family who I apologize if they interrupt me and I have to momentarily hang up. I will get back on, I promise. But anyway, so I have I've had memories all along. I'm not one of these people who kind of had the luxury, or maybe not the luxury, but the illusion in their for the first 30 years of their life. I have had memories since waking up after my first abduction when I was 6, and I didn't understand any of it until 2019, when I found my way to the SSP community. Um, and I started reaching out to people in, God, when was it? Late 2021, I think. And, I guess I've kind of worked my way up. I went public in 2022, and I've been just working my way through it from there. And, I have oceans of memories in all of my dozens upon dozens of hours of interviews. Um, I've rarely gotten past the surface level. So that's basically the very basics of my story.
So it's funny. I sort of have stuff going back to the age of 5, but we're talking about you, right? It's uh, it's a big deal what we're talking about here, and I think just from an audience of the Basis Project who haven't seen your work, just go and find out. There's the Man with Periwinkle Eyes. There's several different channels of very deep stuff, and we're really going to pick up from that because I'm sure you don't want to be going over old ground. I think this stuff,
Correct,
especially
yes.
since it's several hundred hours of it and stuff.
Yeah.
So, what's the purpose? Let's get to the point. What's do you want to get across right now in October 2025 with Atlas 3I and a few other things allegedly flying around up there?
The thing I would most like to get across is that these things I talk about are not only still relevant, that I don't see them changing. Uh, I I am still in contact with, for instance, I am sure you are familiar with this phenomenon. I am sure that most anyone in your audience is familiar with the phenomenon of vanishing pregnancies.
Well,
And
personally, I haven't had any vanishing pregnancies, but uh,
I'm sure that you're familiar. Okay. Um,
now why do you talk about that?
what I'm talking about when I talk about vanishing pregnancies is that these women's children are being taken from their wombs and put into artificial wombs, either underground or off planet, for genetic engineering and use within these programs. And this is still happening. The most recent vanishing pregnancy case that on a woman I spoke to, I'm not going to say her name, but the most recent one was about 6 months ago.
Right.
And so that tells me everything I need to know that this stuff has not stopped. Not to mention that I still
Well,
frequently wait.
at our
I
conference in December, there's an English lady who's had all that, and she has got enough evidence to nail the British government is involved with this. There's a paper trail, and she's
okay.
not too happy about it.
Yeah, I'm not either. And not to mention, in my own case, I frequently wake up with abduction marks, pinpricks on my neck, shoulders, and genitalia primarily. So things are
What kind of marks?
uh, usually like needle marks or little scoop marks or very occasionally tiny scabs. And no, guys, it's not razor burn. I know everyone is going to say that. It's not razor burn. Um, so,
Any
and
pattern?
uh, occasionally there will be three in a triangle pattern.
Yeah.
Usually, no, it's usually just one mark or two randomly placed.
I'm familiar with the triangle ones, and the little one's like a flower. No?
No, not those. I've never had those that I can recall. Uh, oh, I might have as a child once. Thinking about it, I may have as a child.
So
Yeah.
continue. This is
Okay.
and the why is it? I've just asked you to continue, and I'm. The point is, why are you saying even now? What's the significance of why it's happening even now?
Because the machine never stops moving, is what I would say. Um, Ultimately, what we have, even though we have the illusion of choice, we have the same people in power who are fighting the same wars that they and their parental figures have been fighting for millions of years. And ultimately, I don't see a change coming uh, very soon, if ever. Um, and so I don't know if anything can be done about it, but I at least would like people to have a knowledge base so that they can see what's happening around them for what it is.
Okay, who's involved? Who do we need to deal with? Is there anything that people can do, like spreading the word of what?
All elected politicians, probably on the planet, and all unelected ones. Not everywhere is a so-called democracy. Um, so we're talking about the heavy hitters, the presidents, the all of those people, but even more so than the presidents, the generals, and the heads of the intelligence agencies. Ultimately, are the people who you at least can see who are involved with this. Now, we do very much have a shadow government system, and the people who are actually at the top are not human. Um, They are various and sundry alien races, but those people you're probably never going to see. So ultimately, I'm getting a call. I apologize.
Okay, no worries. We just keep recording. We'll do whatever. Okay. Okay, this is an ad hoc call, and we're going to have interruptions. Oh, fuck. Hello, John.
Yes.
Great.
So as I was saying, the people you can
If you could
see.
just let me, I just need to get the screen the right
Oh.
side again. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So the people you can see who are doing this, like I was mentioning, are your heads of state, your heads of intelligence, and of course, I mean, your heads of intelligence you can see are not even your real heads of intelligence, but at least they are someone you can see and look up and probably find on social media, and your generals. These are the people who at least sort of know what's going on, who you could potentially get a word in with.
Is there some kind of way that we can raise our? It's. Let me get me words in the way. Last week, I was speaking to somebody else, and they got word from a general that there's no white hats. It's all down to us.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
So, could you expand on what the consequences of that is and the full meaning of it?
To put it bluntly, we're fucked.
Now, yeah.
But you know, I guess grassroots resistance movements have worked a few times in history in the past. I guess you could look at like the Haitian Revolution or the French Resistance, possibly. So I wouldn't. I'm not. I'm not ever going to say that we have no chance at all, but I'm not terribly optimistic.
Can you go into scales on this?
Scales.
Sort of how. I mean, Bob Osborne, one of the other people I mentioned, he's very pessimistic. He calls it the Fabian agenda, going back to the 1800s. And is there any sort of? Do you want to go into background? Where could people do it? I mean, one of the things you don't do is tell people on the internet what you're going to do.
I would say it goes back much further than the 1800s.
Yeah, only in yeah.
Open ET contact goes back at least as far as, or the current phase of open ET contact goes back at least as far as John Dee, with Queen Elizabeth I.
That keeps coming up. I've done a lot of work with the Francis Bacon Society, and I think they've invited me in for other reasons. That's John Dee, 007, all that stuff.
Yeah. The current phase of open ET contact goes back at least that far. And the phase of, like, the SSP, which is essentially slave labor in an interplanetary mercantile system, is how I look at it, and that's how generally I've experienced it, is, for all intents and purposes, it began in the 1830s with the early archaeologists were finding technology and stargates in Egypt, Greece, India, what is now Iraq, etc.
There are some pictures of stargates on the internet. Are they the real ones, or are they?
They sure look like the real ones.
Okay.
At least some of them do. And these people, when they found this stuff, that reached a point where they could be contacted openly by people openly admitting they were ETs. and telling them how to use this stuff. And so, slowly but surely, it builds up to the modern SSP narrative, which begins in about 1947. And by the way, I would like to go on a short rant about something.
Go ahead and rant. Say anything you want. Open mic. Go ahead. Feel free.
We have had the material to know about this SSP happening since 1956 with a gentleman by the name of Antonio Vilas Boas, who was in Brazil. He was the first man to really gain any kind of prominence by telling his abduction story. And he told this story that we hear over and over again in UFO literature, where there was a big flying saucer that landed, mesmerized him, pulled him aboard the ship, and he was led around the ship in between experiments and basically rape by an ET woman. In between all of this, he was being led around the ship by two blonde German women in SS uniforms. And we've had this story since 1956. We hear it again with Barney and Betty Hill. We hear it again with Whitley Strieber. We hear it again all through the ages of UFOs, of UFO literature and abduction tales. And it wasn't until, the 1990s that people finally actually started paying attention to the human element and started realizing, oh, there's also military involvement with this. This has something to do with World War II. This isn't just an alien sci-fi movie fantasy. That's pathetic. And furthermore, because of this alien abduction narrative that we have, almost everywhere in the world, at least in the Western world, and not just the Western world, but also South Africa, Japan, the Philippines, Russia, etc., there are UFO groups, support groups, usually within a 150-mile radius of any given abductee, that they can call up and find support and friends and a platform. Can you imagine how different it would be if we had caught on to the SSP supersoldier narrative in the 1950s, and suddenly there were support groups for SSP or super soldiers all over the world, everywhere now? Like,
Well, that's what we tried to do that 15 years
yeah,
ago, but it was already sabotaged from
yeah,
from the word go, because the person running it was an ET.
yeah, I know, but it's like the degree of manipulation of the narrative that went on for 50 years is insane, and the degree to which no one saw through it is insane.
Do you want to go
So,
into detail on that? I mean, with the original American UFO people, Forrestal's death.
yeah, Forrestal's death. Even before that, we had Admiral Byrd's death,
Yeah.
which, and his diaries are on Amazon. We've had his diaries since 1949, I believe, is when they were published. And he talked at length about German settlements in Antarctica and in Agartha. And we've also had, in the 1960s, we heard about the gentleman who also traveled to Inner Earth, to the land that he called High Brazil, Hybrasil. I cannot remember this gentleman's name, but
That was off the southwest corner of Ireland.
yeah,
Physically appears out of the sea.
yeah. There was some gentleman who spoke at length about that in, I believe, the 1960s, and said that there were military projects researching it. In 1961, we had the first book ever written that mentioned the Vril Society under Maria Orsich and her cronies. And in the Hynek reports are absolutely chock full of people mentioning military involvement. The Billy Meyer material is full of mentions of the so-called Pleiadians that he spoke with, speaking German amongst themselves.
So they're not German, they're SSP.
Yeah, well, they're not from Germany. They're from the off-world colonies. Which I'll go into that. I can go into that easily. That's kind of my bread and butter as far as this subject goes.
Yeah.
But where was I? And so all the way up through the 90s, all the way up until the 90s, we had this stuff. And finally, in the 90s, we got a few people who started speaking about the military involvement at length, which was Preston Nichols, whom I loathe to give any credit to that self-admitted pedophile, but
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, but in this case, I do unfortunately have to give credit. And then we also had Michael Relf and Barry King, etc., coming forward in the 90s. And so finally, we started hearing about super soldiers and what was going on.
Well, that was it was Lisa Williams who brought me Barry King, and she's passed on. She stayed down in Cornwall. I think.
Okay. Yeah, I've watched his material. I've been to the Peasmore Dome several times in my life.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
We're planning
sure.
to do some tours of that. Duncan Davis and a few others with a friend of mine or a person who you may not like or know is James.
Casbolt?
Yeah, I initially when he was starting to talk about Barry King, I thought he was copying it, but he had more information. They found that base in 2009. It's only up the road from here.
Yeah. Um, what Peasmore is, from what I remember of it, and there's 9 levels of it, and these domes are constructed in such a way that every level is completely compartmentalized. You work on one level, you live on that level, you eat at that level, you do everything at that level. You hardly ever go to another level, and if you do, you keep your eyes forward and you don't talk to anyone.
Or anything.
So it's basically like the Dulce Laboratory, England's answer to the Dulce Laboratory. And where they were making chimeras and monstrosities of all descriptions. I was there guarding a young lady who had to photograph all this stuff for the archives, for the American archives. Excuse me. And we saw quite a lot of crazy shit.
Talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Wolfmen we saw. I saw one character, one poor gentleman who was, they told us was slated for the incinerator because he had gone insane during the process, who he looked like William Birkin in Resident Evil 2, which is interesting. Which is a lot of people won't know what that is. It's this character that you fight in this game who is, half of him looks like a normal man, the other half is huge, bulging, exposed muscle, huge, sharp teeth on one side of his face, and his left shoulder is just one enormous eye. There was a gentleman there who looked like that. There were snake people. There were people who I swear looked like they had been mixed with a xenomorph type of thing from the Alien franchise movies. And there were I met an actual entity there. He was not a chimera. Who was literally a bucket of sludge with eyes and teeth, who was sentient. Um, and he spoke to me. We actually had quite an interesting conversation about.
Was he in a bucket or something? Are we talking about something like Deep Space Nine?
I don't know Deep Space
All
Nine very
right.
well, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was in a bucket. He was in a purple plastic bucket, and he spoke to me telepathically. We had I don't remember what we even talked about. I think I asked him like what did he eat and things like that. You know, we had a fairly average conversation, which you do in these situations. When you're used to it, when you've lived a life like I've lived, you
As you
learn pretty
do.
quickly to what?
As you do, you know,
Yeah.
talking to a guy in a
When
bucket.
yeah, when you when you've lived the kind of life I do, nothing phases you anymore and you talk to anyone about anything and it's no big deal. Um so yeah, we talked about like food and things like that and then I had to move on. But yeah, that was what it was like in Peasmore when I saw it. Um and I believe I made about 3 visits there. And I only figured out it was Peasmore ever because trying to remember because I believe because I saw Barry King's interviews and I looked up photographs of the village and I remembered, oh yeah, we did have to walk through the village to get into the base. So that was the only reason I ever figured out that it was there.
Did you go? Did you go to the pub? There's a pub there.
No.
Well, every village has a pub, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't believe we did. Um we were trying to remember how we got there. We were picked up from some airfield. Uh
If I said Welford,
no, no.
Greenham Common.
It was somewhere to the north,
All right.
considerably to the north. Pretty middle of nowhere airfield, and then we had to get into a black bus, and we were driven across the countryside down to Peasmore. Then we offloaded in a field near the village. For whatever reason, we had to walk across this field through the village into another field, and then finally a portal opened up for us to enter it.
That
Uh,
that seems to concur with what James and Duncan Davis found. It was
okay,
they were talking about a field.
okay,
It's interesting that.
yeah, yeah. And so then we were in there. We were on, I believe, level 6, and we had to go around taking these photographs. And there were a fair number of human staff. There were quite a lot of, I believe they were Montenegrins on staff, going by their accents. I have no idea why that might be, but
Yeah,
there were Montenegrins on staff there, which is kind of a funny note.
that's
But
a very funny note.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask a direct question. Obviously, these are archives, so they're for historical reasons. So, obviously, maybe we could get a copy of them somewhere if we wrote to the right office, he said.
Yeah. Look, try writing the U.S. Air Force. See what happens. I won't tell anyone not to do something.
Well, I didn't hear that, and obviously, nobody's watching, so we'll just pretend then.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You're totally not well known in this field. You have no audience. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is a private conversation here, and one of my recorders is shut down. That's why I've got about 5 of the bloody things. So
Oh, that's
anyway,
good.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, where were we?
I think I'm going to write a letter, dear head of the. Well, yeah, that's classified. Can't talk about that. Dear sir or mom, got to be careful. The head of. So, yeah. Well, it was interesting because that's British, and do you want to sort of hang around the British bases since we're in Wiltshire here?
Oh
Nothing,
yeah.
nothing happening here, by the way. Just move along.
Actually, there is one in Wil. It's not a base. It's just along the road from you. A place called Chalfield Manor. Just it's just a little bit west of Bradford on Avon.
Aha.
Um, I have a really traumatic memory of Chalfield Manor. Um, there was, I believe it was a Harvest Moon festival type of thing. Um, it may have actually been in the 1800s, because time travel is a major part of this whole thing, or they may have just dressed up in 1800s wear um, for it. Who knows? Sealed off all the doors and windows, threw in me and probably 4 other kids and a few adults, turned out all the lights, and these adults were chasing us through the manor. There is one exit
Are
that
you
they leave
talking
open.
Rudlow Manor?
What?
Rudlow Manor. Have you heard of that? Near
No,
Box? No?
no. This
Okay,
is
fine.
Chalfield Manor.
Okay.
And there is one window or door that they leave open. They don't tell you which one, of course, and you have to find your way out. If you don't find your way out within a set time, or if you get caught by one of these adults chasing you, you get eaten. Literally eaten for dinner at a party. Um, and uh, 2 of the 5 kids in my little group that I was with got caught and eaten.
So you had a time limit.
Yes.
Were there child hunts across the
Yes.
countryside?
Yes, that too. They would even dress up like it was a fox hunt, and they had dogs and everything. Um, I'm not entirely sure which manor house that was at yet. I had a period where I refused to examine any of these memories any further, and so I stopped looking at that. I could probably find it if I looked. Um,
Well, this is very interesting. Continue.
yeah. I remember a fox hunt, but it was children, not foxes, at some really huge estate. It was in a very hilly region. Uh, I know that. And I do believe this was in England.
Somerset.
Yeah,
Does that work? Does
yeah,
that
it could
mean
have been
anything?
Somerset. Yeah, it easily could have been Somerset.
Bath?
I don't believe it was Bath.
Or around there? I mean, how would you know anyway? I mean, if you, I mean,
Well, if I found the house, I would know. Um, I am reasonably familiar with general English topography and geography, so
oh, right.
uh, yeah, I've spent a lot of time on Google Earth. I had a very sheltered life growing up, and so I spent a lot of time on Google Earth looking at places that I wanted to visit. Uh,
It's quite
so yeah,
addictive, actually, just going through places and.
yeah, yeah. And I've found some interesting stuff on there. I've found places I didn't know I had memories of completely by accident uh, on Google Earth. So yeah, it's interesting what you can find on there.
What did you find interesting?
I found an abandoned base in Indiana. It's called Jefferson Proving Ground, which is part of the Project Phoenix that a lot of people, including me, are talking about right now. I don't want to dwell too much on it, because I've written a lot of, it's what my books mostly focus on, and I've done several dozen interviews on it, so I don't want to
Yeah.
focus on it too much. But
Could you refer people to what those interviews would be and what channel or whatever? Just
yeah, my channel is called "Do You Hear the People Sing?" or um, my handle is at the John Whitberg, all lowercase, and I call it my Montauk series with Alexander Cherkasov. Um, that's and they're all in a playlist, all very accessible on my channel. I need to start putting them on BitChute because YouTube is not to be trusted right now.
well, I certainly had that experience. I can guarantee it. But unfortunately, BitChute's not available in Britain because they self-censored them. We can't see that here anymore. But
Okay. Well, what platforms should I be on then? Because I do actually want my English audience. There's quite a lot of you guys
yeah.
who watch me.
Well, I think Rumble is good. I think it's possibly. I've gone onto an independent channel of myself. I'm trying to everything that I've had to do is put back on my own website. Then it's got a paywall, and then it's got different regulations. Down to $2 or $3 or something.
Okay.
There are. I mean, Laura Eisenhower just got her YouTube channel back on YouTube, but
Yeah.
they've never wanted to restore mine. I can't. I don't understand why.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
You must keep things backed up in your own hard drives, and then at the same
I
time,
do.
remember that they need spun up every so often. They do die.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I have everything saved on at least 3 cloud storage places, so yeah. I don't take chances.
It depends who runs the cloud storage.
True.
Anyway,
Yeah.
apparently you've
Anyway.
been down in Cornwall. Does that help? I want if whatever works by you and wherever you've been is.
Yeah, I've been down in Cornwall quite a bit in several different altars of mine. Do you know the town Tintagel?
I've heard of it. It's very familiar. I think it's on the south coast, although I could be completely
Yes,
wrong.
it is. It's supposedly where King Arthur was born. I believe that it is almost entirely MI6 people living there. And of course, probably 99% of them don't even know that they're MI6, but they get a phone call in the middle of the night that activates them.
Ah,
And then they wake up and they wonder, like, why did I sleep in my clothes again? Or why is there blood under my fingernails? Or whatever.
oh, that old blood under the fingernails thing.
Yeah. Um,
It's a good way of keeping people on a limited payroll, but I suppose you only get paid if you're on active service, if you ever get
yeah.
paid.
Yeah. But, I think that most of Tintagel is that I lived with a family who was like that, although they were actually fully aware. And this is in the first volume of my book, but this would have been in the 1970s and 80s. And no, I'm not that old in this body, but like I mentioned, time travel is a major part of all this. And there are patents out there for time machines, people. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages on the theory of time travel, proving that it is not that it is extremely possible, and within our lifetime it could be accessed. And so this brings me to another note as to why anyone should listen to me. There are patents for all of the technologies I talk about. And patents that make everything else I talk about possible. So I would ask people, maybe just imagine for one moment that someone might actually use those technologies. And then maybe imagine for a moment that the people using it might be people in power who are reluctant to say that they're using this.
You're being very diplomatic.
Yeah, I am. But like, just imagine that people might imagine that that could be true. And after that, it's not a stretch to imagine that my story, that all of these other people's stories who have been talking for 20 years now, might be real. And also accept that I'm not getting anything out of this. I've never been paid for an interview. I assume I never will be. I don't even get paid for my books, and I don't want to be, because I consider them education, and I think education should be free.
Yeah.
And so,
Where do people get your books?
internetarchive.org. Or if you have trouble accessing that, you can message me on Facebook or email me. And by the way, I finally bit the bullet and got a business email. My business email is kyledelschow@gmail.com. KYLEDELLSCHAU@gmail.com. They can email me there if they don't have Facebook, and I can send you a PDF, a direct PDF, if you have trouble in accessing Internet Archive
Okay,
for whatever
if you could
reason.
do that later, I can stick it up on the edit and
Yeah,
put the
sure.
postcode, the email.
Yeah, yeah. And so where even was I? So what I was saying is, I don't get anything out of this. Hardly anyone I know who is in this field gets anything out of this. Usually it's them spending money in order to talk about it. So it's like, I have no reason to make this up. And
Yeah.
neither does anyone else, ultimately.
As I've always wanted to ask about how do people sing that song? Is that something that you? It must have some significance.
Yes, it's from a memory of a possible future timeline, wherein a lot of files get released by accident, and wherein therefore a lot of super soldiers are able to sue the US government, including a few familiar faces who I will not name, but it's some pretty surprising names, say the least, if I were to say them.
Well, it wouldn't be a surprise if you did say them. So
I know, but, well, that's what I mean. It would be a surprise because people have notions about these people that are incorrect. But I'm not going to go into that right now because there are things that I cannot say because I don't want to ruin the possibility of this happening. But at any rate, and what I remember is that all of the super soldiers who do this lawsuit march into the courtroom singing, "Do you hear the people sing?" And so it becomes a big media firestorm.
well, may that event happen
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. So that's why the name of the channel. And it's also fitting because there are massive connections between all of this and the music industry. A great many of the songs that are popular now were written by us.
Do you want to mention which ones, or does any of
Oh,
that? I might ask something, but that doesn't mean you necessarily need to answer it. I'm just
yeah, sure.
yeah.
I can go into that. I talk about it again in the book. I'm not squeamish about that. Let's talk about a few of the really big ones. Edelweiss, Hallelujah, Both Sides Now, Let's see. What's that song?
It was interesting that Edelweiss was that movie in Austria.
Yeah.
Sound of Music. I mean, that's
There's one I've been listening to a lot recently that I finally got the memory of how it was written. Year of 39 by Queen. Let's see. Carry On My Wayward Son. Pretty much the entire John Denver catalog. Pretty much the entire Joni Mitchell catalog. Amazing Grace. All of these songs that everyone knows, and especially even more so songs in Asia. There's a Chinese song that I wrote. Originally it was in Japanese, but it's called Ni Wen Wo Ai Ni O Doshen. Anyone who is in the sinosphere listening to this will immediately know that song. It's probably the most famous Chinese song ever written. And as well as Sukiyaki, or its real title is Ue o Muite Aruko, etc. And also there's a French song, Les Femmes Amoureuses, I believe is what it's called, and so on. Because people in these programs are usually multilingual. I have a great deal of difficulty accessing that in the here and now, but most of us do have chips in our head that store languages that can be switched on instantly and allow us to speak whatever language is required and blend into the environment. So. I'm getting a sip of water. That's your cue to ask a question.
Oh, right. Great. Are the French involved with this a lot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. France is the center of this in some ways. I'm sure you have heard about the Merovingian line.
Yes, explain.
Those are the true Holy Grail. They are the bloodline of Christ and Mary Magdalene. They are the people, at least in the Western world, who get taken. They are the Europeans who get taken, are people who are descendants of the Grail line. If you look at your hand, at your left palm, you should see, if you are a Merovingian, you will see an M in the lines in your left palm. And
an M?
Yes, I have one. It's
or an
upside
N?
Down. M.
N for November?
No, M for...
Miles.
Yeah. I have one very clearly. It's upside down in this picture, but you can see it. And so, if you have that, you're a Merovingian.
Well, I have one depending if I look this side or up. Yeah.
Then you probably are one.
The M, yeah.
The angle varies.
Looks, yeah. I've never noticed that before, but there it is.
Mm-hmm. So, those are the people who get taken for these. Those are the people of European descent who get taken for these programs. There are other people of other ethnicities who get taken. Black people descended from certain parts of Africa, descended from the Dogon tribe, also get taken. Asians descended from Genghis Khan or the Yellow Emperor also get taken. And people from various indigenous tribes of the Americas and Australia also get taken. But the white people are all Merovingians. And so those people, what happened is there is a magnificent book written on this subject which matches absolutely what I was taught in these programs, is that Jesus, the figure we know as Jesus, did not actually die. First of all, he was not immaculately conceived. He was There are two competing narratives. Either he was an ET hybrid and Mary, the mother, was an abductee, or
I don't think that works too well, though, does it? Doesn't
it,
sort of sound.
it doesn't. Although I have heard similar narratives from other ET women who thought they were being taken by angels, and then they did hypnosis and figured out, oh no, it was actually aliens. So it's not impossible.
Yeah, it sounds a wee bit too 20th century for something that's 2,000 years old. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, it's
So
just so like,
it
last
it
century. Yeah.
yeah, it could have been that, or it could have been that Jesus was actually secretly the son of Pantera, um, the uh, the what's the word? The Caesar. Either one would work, but at any rate, he was not actually killed. And there's been a magnificent book written about this called The Templar Revelation, Secret Guardians of the True Identity of Christ, which goes into that. It goes into the artwork of Jean Cocteau, etc., and the Roslin Chapel, and ties it all together into a very neat and very logical picture. That Jesus was not Jewish in any capacity. He was actually a follower of the cult of the Egyptian goddess Isis. And that his so called execution was a ritual, and that he was not actually killed. He sealed himself away in a tomb for 3 days. That is true. No food or water as part of this ritual. And in the book of John, we actually have the words which Mary Magdalene spoke to him to revive him, or to call him out as part of this ritual. I'm amazed that we actually even have the book of John, that it's been allowed to survive, because it has that in there. And that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, and that they then fled to Gaul, now southern France, and settled in what is now the city of Albi, which is where we also get the Albigensian Crusade, when the Vatican attempted, and completely and utterly failed, to wipe out the Albigensian people. And they, by the way, this name comes from the fact that they were very tall, they had bright white skin, white hair, and pale blue eyes. They were albinos.
And nothing to do with tall whites, so to speak. No.
I believe that it is to do with tall whites, yes. Absolutely. And so these people's descendants, the Albigensian people who survived, fled further into Europe and began mixing with the other populations, but their genetics are extremely strong, and so there is still that that psychic thing which carries through the generations even after hundreds of years, and the genetic marker of the M on the hands. And that psychic marker is what Penny Bradley refers to as metagene, what James Casbolt referred to as blood prime, what Max Spears referred to as blood group B, etc. That's the people in the Western world who they go after, who these programs target.
It's interesting that you've mentioned those characters. That's I'd like to try and dig deeper into the origins of all this in this country. But
Right,
a
okay.
lot of stuff seems to always, all roads lead to Londinium, so to speak.
Yeah, they sure do, don't they? All roads lead to, I have a saying, all roads lead to London or Rome or Tokyo.
I haven't heard Tokyo, but is that to do with the different dragon families there, or
Yes. And those are the true descendants of the Yellow Emperor. The Yamato people of Japan are the true descendants of the Yellow Emperor.
and what's the significance of that particular emperor?
He was an Aldebaranite ET, of the same race that helped the Nazis. Uh, he did not look Asian. He looked blonde, but he mixed with a local woman. And, again, the classic story, they were, over the generations, they became visually invisible from among their own people. But they sure do still have an existence there. And their genes sure do carry down. And so the Kashirito, the royal family of Japan, are the true descendants of the Yellow Emperor. And so are the various samurai clans. And there are genetic studies showing that about 95% of people in Japan are descended from a samurai clan. So, that gene is really, really strong over there. And a lot of Japanese children are abducted for these programs. I have finally, just in the last couple of months, managed to make a little bit of an inroad into the Japanese UFO scene. After 3 years of attempting to, because I have a lot of things that I think these people would like to know about themselves.
Does that follow into the North Koreans? Apparently, after World War II, a lot of the blood families in Japan took safety in North Korea.
Well, yeah, a few did, yeah. And they're probably still there. I think about 1% of North Korea is ethnically Japanese. And I believe, yeah, they are somewhat better off than the rest of the people there. Unfortunately, they'll never see this interview because it's fucking North Korea, but
Who knows?
I'm sorry. By the way, I'm sorry I swear so much. I do try to keep it
Listen,
down. But
listen, before we started this, ladies and gentlemen, I told that we're not going to have any fucking swearing on this bloody talk. But it doesn't seem to have been kept to, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that.
You see, if I say it's in a Belfast accent, it's okay, you see.
Oh, okay.
See?
All right.
It's merely a form of cultural expression if you say it in a Belfast accent.
Okay. Good to know.
We're merely exhibiting our cultural heritage.
Okay.
Do you want to get back
anyway.
to Cornwall?
Yeah, back to Cornwall. I also have memories, actually, of being there in King Arthur times. Time traveled, not like a past life thing. I do try to keep my past lives and my time travel information separate because people get confused on that. A lot of the missions I have done were either assassinations or just taking photos.
Ooh. Yeah.
Time period
We've had a bit of a dropout there. We'll just keep recording.
in over the world.
I missed that.
Connection is
It dropped out.
gone.
Oh.
Yeah, the connection cut.
Then maybe they need to put a new tape in on that side. We're talking about Japan,
maybe.
I think. Or no, Cornwall.
Yeah. I remember
if I
being
said
in
mermaid,
Camelot.
would that mean anything?
What?
Mermaids.
What? Sorry?
Mermaid.
Mermaids do exist. They primarily live in the Pacific.
They have a legendary connection with North Cornwall.
Okay.
Okay,
I don't know about that.
Okay, fine. Well, stick. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being in Camelot, taking a lot of photographs. It was a really cool place. And this would have been, however far back that would have been. Gosh.
When you say Camelot, where are you referring to in today's?
It was in Cornwall. I know that because I remember the Cornish cliffs. Pretty unmistakable. Um, it was on the edge of one of those cliffs, and it was a pretty amazing place. I took a lot of photographs there. They had hot air balloons already that far back. They had harnessed hydropower. And I don't mean like hydroelectric power. I mean like hydropower, like water wheels and uh, running water and all of those sort of things all the way back then. And it was
Yeah.
very, very advanced for a place of its time. And it was really cool. It was a really cool place. And I took quite a lot of photographs. I had this little tiny Minox camera. People can look up what a Minox camera is. It's probably not very well known, but it's a little spy camera that you can look up.
Made in Germany or Switzerland?
Probably, yeah, probably. Yeah, I believe it is made in Switzerland. They still exist, and so I was there as just as a commoner, walking around, taking pictures. I saw King Arthur from a distance, which was pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Did the
he
locals then not sort of feel that you were taking pictures of a king, or they know, or
they didn't see me.
yeah,
They
right?
didn't see
Because
me.
you weren't there in the you were there in the virtual or what? Or
No, I was there physically, but I blended in. I had the camera under a sleeve, and they're not going to take too much notice of a guy surreptitiously scratching his armpit or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're not
So,
looking for it. So
yeah, exactly.
when you did those sort of things, did you encounter people who knew that you were not from around there at the time?
Yes, well, there would be other plants there who I would have contact with. But aside from that, yes, I've had people who recognized me as being from somewhere else. Um, I've had a monk in 13th century Tibet uh, who immediately saw right through me and said, "You are from somewhere late in our cycle. You are here to steal from us, but you are a conflicted soul."
What exactly did that mean?
It meant that he could tell I didn't want to do any harm and that I was a slave. And
What about the society in there?
well, it was in a monastery. It was ancient Buddhism. It wasn't very different from today. If you go to Tibet today, you'll still find the culture is pretty much the same as it was back 2,000 years ago, even. And so what happened? And so he invited me in. I lived in this monastery for several years, and I did not want to steal from these people. They were people of peace, truly. And I did not want anything, I did not want to do any harm to them. And so finally, the abbot of this monastery gave me this artifact I had come for. And he said, he gave a little speech about like impermanence. And he said, I know that whatever hell you are taking this back to also will never last. So
Can you go into the details about the item?
it was a wooden pyramid with carvings on it. I think they were like sigils of some kind, and a bunch of scrolls. I did not have the clearance level to look any further than that. Um, these programs are very compartmentalized. You know exactly what you need to know to do your job, and nothing more. And
So how are you sent there? How do you end up going there and eating and having a place to live and that's kind of
but
practical stuff.
yeah, via a portal from the base I was on. They opened a portal. I walked through it. I was in the vicinity of the monastery, which was up on a mountaintop. And I walked towards it, and they invited me in. I'm giving you a very condensed version. It's towards the end of my second book, this
Okay,
story
fine.
is.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was an interesting one. And there have actually been times, there was one time when I was in, I believe it was in the 14th century, or no, the 15th century, sorry, okay. There was one time I was in what I believe was around the 15th century in Scarborough, and I was, no one there saw me. No one there could see me. Um, which was odd. I was invisible to the locals.
Continuing.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized you couldn't have heard what I just said.
No, it's on the recording. Don't worry.
Okay. I told a little story about like when I was in Scarborough and like the locals couldn't see me, at all for some reason. And I don't believe it was virtual because I did have to carry out an assassination there. And it was quite bloody. And there's a level of detail you can't fake in virtual.
Yeah.
And so I do believe it was real, but for whatever reason, the locals just could not see me at all. Now, this woman whom I had to assassinate, who was in fact an ET in hiding using holographic shielding to appear human, she could see me, but no one else could.
Do you want to go into the details of why and what?
Um, when I killed her, her holographic shielding fell, and she looked like an orc.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know why. They don't tell you why. They
Right.
don't tell the
Orc,
assassins why.
as
But
in Lord of the Rings.
hmm but black, not that same color. She was black,
Yeah.
and I don't mean black like a black person. I mean like black like charcoal.
Right.
Yes.
Could you go
Um.
into the infrastructure of that as to you bringing in character? We've gone to Francis Bacon, Queen Elizabeth I, John Dee. That's a lot of a sort
Yeah.
of established history and structure of the history around here, and orcs and stuff.
Yes. And also griffins, which were in Atlantis. The Atlanteans kept griffins as pets. And of course, griffins are now quite culturally significant to the UK. Uh, which there's the liver bird and everything like that. So that's a little bit of Atlantean heritage still peeking through.
Does that come from the south of Ireland, the west of Ireland? I mean, is
Uh,
Atlantis in some sort of a cloaked reality somewhere?
Atlantis, as far as I know, did sink, but there are remnants of it in predominantly off planet. Atlantis, the main island, was when I'm doing these shows, I lose words that I don't lose when I'm writing. That's why I
Okay.
write a lot of the
Yeah.
time. So, Atlantis, as far as I know, was mostly off the coast of Portugal. But there have been people who fled all over the planet to Egypt and yes, to Ireland and became known as the Tuatha De Danann.
Yeah.
I apologize if I am butchering the
Listen, I
pronunciation of
can't say
that.
it either. Don't worry. It's the
Okay.
so-called tribe of Dan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuatha De Dan. I think that's about the
Y-
best I can do. I don't want to repeat it.
Yeah. They fled to the south coast of Ireland and to the rest of the isles of northern Europe, and even some as far south as what is now Zimbabwe. They went all over the known planet at the time, and I have it on good authority. I'm not going to say it as a stating of fact, but I have it on good authority from a remote viewer that the area that is now Corpus Christi, Texas, um, where I did spend quite a lot of my life, uh, was an Atlantean outpost, a slave holding area, and that there is still stuff under the city there. I do know there is definitely a dome under there, so that
Does
it
that
would
mean
make
that
sense.
did the lands rise, or
Yes, and on the
I know how they're
seawall
about
you
to
can
sink now? Bimini?
probably.
If I said Bimini,
Where is Bimini?
it's the so-called forbidden zone. Daniel List talks about it, but there's also a few friends from a recent major news story in the last couple of years had an island there.
Okay. Um.
Who certainly apparently didn't die, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Epstein and all that.
Ah. And so apparently that area was a an Atlantean area, and it was. If you, I agree with that, because if you look at the natural part of the seawall, a lot of it has been concreted over, but there are natural parts left. If you look at it, you can very clearly see that it is a construction.
Now, what are we looking at precisely here?
At the seawall of Corpus Christi,
Okay,
Texas.
fine.
Yeah. Which Corpus Christi itself is kind of an interesting name because it means body of Christ, and we were talking a little bit ago about the Merovingians and the true identity of Christ. So it's interesting that an Atlantean outpost just happened supposedly to have that name.
I mean, we're talking a very long distance in eras here. Do
Yeah,
things sort of bounce through time?
absolutely. Absolutely, things have bounced through time, and like there's a lot of things that people don't realize are either of Atlantean origin or are of ET origin, that either still persist or persisted until very recently. You
Such
know, and
as,
it's,
give some examples.
oh gosh, folk music of Northern Europe, um, foot binding in China, the tea ceremonies in Japan. Um, let's see, pretty much all the ceremonies carried out by the Native Americans. Uh, all sorts of fashion trends throughout all of human history. Um, Egyptomania, and so on. Just all of these things that we take for granted as being either currently part of our culture or that were part of our culture recently enough that there are pictures and records of it that we don't realize these are things that are trickling down through the eons from ETs that we never knew we had contact with.
It's actually been a very historical, cultural uh, themed chat here. And it's to
Yes,
be surprise some people, would it? Or should it surprise anybody?
it shouldn't surprise anyone, but it's not their fault that it does. This stuff should be taught in schools, but it's not. And it's not anyone's fault that it's not. So,
Well, there's
you
so
know,
much should be taught in the schools, but they seem to be limiting our knowledge base.
yeah.
How would you like to do? How would you like things done to tell people what they need to know?
If we were going to really go there, we would start history class with the works of Zechariah Sitchin.
I have a big bone about that. He's had a Sitchin himself, I think, was, shall we say, steered towards some assets of the Vatican to,
Probably
or,
some assets,
yeah,
some
or
aspects,
aspects,
but look,
putting things in the round.
yeah, Sitchin was right at his essence. He was right that the current human genome was created by the Anunnaki, or the Tall Whites, as we know them. And there, I know where the lab where we were created is. It's near the city of, I believe, Fez. It's somewhere in Morocco, out in the desert. And there's these humongous clay basins just out in the desert that they tell you was an ancient laundry facility or something.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't. That was the lab where the first people of this genome were made. So we would start there with that history in school, and then work our way up. Atlantis, Lemuria, the Orion War spill over into this system. Then Egypt, the real history in Egypt and Mesopotamia and Greece and China and Great Zimbabwe, as they're now calling it, and so on.
What is Great Zimbabwe as opposed to just Zimbabwe? That's for the former
It's
Rhodesia, obviously from the
yeah.
Rhodes connection.
Great Zimbabwe is an ancient city. That's what they call it now. These people did not apparently have any form of writing, so we don't know what the people who actually built this city called it. But we would have their real history and also the real history of the Incans, the Mayans, the Aztecs, etc.
Now, that
Go.
whole lump you've mentioned is people would recognize that. But what about the Orion Wars? Would you want to talk about those in detail? That's the one
Okay.
thing people wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, it's fairly famous in our circles now, but it's
I've heard about it, but could you?
yeah. There is a gate called the Gate of Orion, a massive stargate that if you control that gate, you control half the galaxy. And it is positioned right near the star that we call Mintaka in Orion's belt. And what happened was two empires who had also had skirmishes, and when we're talking about galactic empires having skirmishes, we're talking about, like, a little skirmish involves 2 or 3 star systems getting wiped off the map. We're talking about galactic empires here.
Yeah. And do you want to put alien names on that, or is it,
Yeah,
or there
yeah. It
alien
was
groups?
it.
Is one particular species too distracting? Is it, or one
No,
group?
it's two. It's two alien groups. The the Draco. People call them People call them the reptilians, or people use Draco and reptilians interchangeably, which I have a massive bone to pick with that. But
Well,
I'll get
I
into
agree
that.
with that. Yeah.
I'll get into that in a minute. But it was the Draco versus the Lyrans, which there are two kinds of Lyrans. There are the cat species Lyrans, who everyone knows about, and there are also human Lyrans who look like us, but you can only tell the difference if you cut them open and you see that they have 2 hearts and 5 kidneys and stuff. They're very
Oh,
different on the inside,
all right.
but on the
So it's a
outside
bit of
they can.
it's a bit of a terminal way to sort of find out about
Yeah,
something.
yeah. But if they showed up, if one of them walked past you on the street, you would never in a million years know it. Um, and so these two galactic empires had been clashing on and off for millions of years, and finally they reached the Gate of Orion. And that started this absolutely epic war. This was about 300,000 years ago. And it started this absolutely epic war that was also kind of ground to a halt within the Orion system, the Orion constellation, for a while, because the native Orionites didn't back down. They fought for what was theirs, tooth and toenail, and they ultimately failed, but they sure fought for it. They lost a lot of planets. Orion used to be a lot more stars than it is now. They lost a lot in that, but they finally signed a peace treaty in order to avoid complete extinction about 30,000 years ago.
Oh, that's recent then.
Yeah, but that's what the Orion Wars was. And so, going forward from teaching all that, and then all these other groups of people I've mentioned, and their real history, which is ET in nature, finally we would come to the real Dark Ages, the Dark Ages in general, which the Dark Ages didn't end until the 1950s.
Wow, that's... Explain what you mean by that. That's 1850s or 1950s?
1950s. When
In
finally...
what way do you mean by that?
Finally, people became connected globally through... Look, I know that the television is a control device, obviously. I know that obviously, radio towers and things like that are used to control people. On the other hand, I don't think I'd want to live in a world without them, because finally people started being aware of what was happening on the planet around them. Really before World War II, but it only really set in the 1950s. People didn't know what was going on in the world.
A lot of people still don't, but...
Well, I know,
yeah.
but it was really... Everyone lived in their little community, in their little towns. You never left, usually. You married someone there, you had kids there, and they had kids there. If you left at all, it was because you had relatives somewhere else, or you knew someone from the military who lived there. And when you moved, you took letters of introduction with you. And you only ever saw your neighbors every day. That was how the world was until 70 years ago. And I consider that ultimately the Dark Ages. And also, the 50s is when we started awakening a little bit to ET presence with early ufology. And so that's why I say the Dark Ages ended in the 1950s, basically.
Where do you think people should go back to in terms of ufology? We've been talking about the 1800s, 1700s. Let's go back to Francis Bacon.
Yeah.
Why that? Why that? I mean, there's talk there was a huge supernova at the time. Queen Elizabeth, her love child, Francis Bacon. You've got John Dee.
Oh, I'd never heard that he was her love child. That's interesting.
It's claimed she had at least 4 children, and didn't want to. The whole point was she didn't want to lose her power by being second rate with the king.
John Dee was in contact with ETs. I don't know the ET species yet, even though when I look at Enochian, as he called it, I can actually read it. But I don't know yet what ET species it comes from. That's a memory block of mine. But
so what are you saying exactly then about Enochian?
It is an ET language.
And did he write that? Make it clear. Did he?
Yeah, he was right. He was doing what we now would call auto writing or channeling in this language. And there are Enochian dictionaries out there that are completely and utterly made up.
Right.
Yeah. They do not say what people think they said. What they actually were saying was pointing out locations of these portals and things like that. But, going back to the Tudor period, we did not have the technology to begin off-world colonization.
But did anybody meaningfully understand what he was writing down so it's something useful could be made from it?
No, but it was held on to until people did.
And when did that happen?
The 1830s,
Right.
give or take a decade.
And what happened in the 1830s to make that happen?
Archaeology.
Right.
Yeah.
Particularly where? In Egypt or?
Egypt, India, Mesopotamia, Greece.
India is interesting. I mean, is that because of the Indian stories of battles in the
Oh, yeah.
sky and all that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, eventually out of India, we got the Vimanaka Shastra, which literally tells you how to build a UFO in great detail. And it even includes like the chemicals and that you would need for fuel and everything. So if people want to build their own private starship, they definitely should not look up the Vimanaka Shastra. That would be of no use to you. um, yeah. And so slowly but surely, things began happening up until the Vril Society and World War II, which could easily be a show in and of itself. To go very briefly into it, there was a woman, Serbian-German woman named Maria Orsic,
Yeah.
who was in contact with ETs from Aldebaran. There are mountains of books written about her and about this contact incident, and this was all done this was first exposed in 1961. So this is not new information that I'm laying out.
Yeah.
But anyway, she was in contact with these ETs, and they were giving her and her other lady friends who were also psychics. It was very fashionable to be a psychic woman in that time.
Yes.
Um,
Blavatsky and all that lot.
Yeah, it was very
That's
fashionable.
a few years beforehand.
Yeah, you would do it to scare your friends at a party and things like that back then. So this was not socially unacceptable or unusual, particularly for a proper German lady to be doing these things in her spare time. And they were giving her information on how to build ships. They were called Andromeda Gerat. I can't remember the exact translation for Gerat, but they were starships. And they were building them. They were sending people out. And they were finding that these
Now, what
people
do you
could
mean
not...
building them? What was involved with the materials? I mean, the theory about the Industrial Revolution was in order to get factories to get the relevant materials to then be able to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm getting a sort of a thought about Buck Rogers in the 22nd Century film, 1939. That seemed to be very well informed.
Yeah, well, we have soft disclosure going back even before that to Edgar Rice Burroughs with the John Carter of Mars books.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so the materials they were needing, they weren't finding very well. So it was slow, but they were managing. The biggest problem they were having actually was one of the key ingredients in the starship fuel is mercury.
Right.
And
Red mercury.
yes, they didn't know how to make red mercury yet. And where was I? What was going on with was that the mercury would solidify when it was in the engine and then make the engine unusable. So they could at most hop like a couple of light years and then come back. And, it was slowing progress down a lot. But then eventually they found another ET species called, a lot of people call them the mantids. That term works fine. They are the praying mantis beings from the Bootes constellation, who told them how to make red mercury. And by the way, they also gave them a thing called a regeneration tank. which stopped them, or it didn't stop them from getting it. It cured them of radiation sickness, which was also a major problem.
Yes, because of the engines or because of the
Yeah,
space itself.
the output of the engines. The engines are very radioactive, and it even with lead shielding, it eventually gets through. So you have to have regeneration tanks in order to use this technology, or else your personnel are going to just be dropping like flies.
Which is not really very good.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, there is a site. There are still remnants of the above ground portion of it. It's now in Poland, in Upper Silesia. It was called the Hinge.
Yes.
In Yeah, Carrie Cassidy very famously visited that location and did a documentary about it.
Well, the hunt for Zero Point, the movie using
Yeah, that movie.
that by I forget the author, but
Yeah.
I had Igor Vygotsky here
Hmm.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Um, if Igor sees this and wants to talk to me, I would be quite honored by that. He was one of the people I came
Was there
across
a
in my.
particular reason why it was where it was? Is it to do with plugging into the Earth's energy grid system or whatever?
Probably, and also Upper Silesia is full of pyramids. A lot of people don't know that the mountains and hills in Upper Silesia are mostly pyramids.
Is that geographically? Is that too far from the Bosnian pyramid, which was all covered in mud
Uh,
by a huge flood
it's not
from
too. It's not
the
too
Indian
far.
Ocean? I mean, I'm talking in round figures
It,
here.
it's not too far. It's southwestern Poland. Um,
Right.
Basically, Upper Silesia is. It was
Apparently,
part
there
of.
was a huge, massive mud rush up
Yeah,
from the Indian Ocean that went into Central Europe, and I think covered a lot of stuff.
yeah.
Some,
I've
there's,
heard that theory. I have my issues with that
I
theory,
mean, I'm being very
but
general here, just sort of
yeah,
getting.
yeah, yeah. I know. I have my issues with that theory, but it would explain some things. So
So, did the Germans get access to that?
yeah, they were led to it
I
by
mean,
the Aldebaran people and by eventually the Mantids, and eventually in about 1943 by the Draco, who they gained contact with in about 1943. Which is why they lost the war. The Draco said, "Look, you're losing the war. Come be our mercenaries off planet. We'll help you build out huge colonies all through the stars if you'll be our mercenaries."
the
And
th-
that is where we get this organization known as Nachtwaffen.
yeah, I was always amazed at how much they could build those tunnels and underground bases.
I
They
know.
must have had access to something to do all that.
Yeah, they
It's
did.
slave labor,
They
doesn't work really.
No, they had access to robotic technology as well, which they were getting, by the way, from the Japanese. That was a big part of why they were so closely allied, and why the Japanese are also such a huge deal off world now, which I'm the only person even talking about that currently. Right now. I have scoured interviews. I am the only person who has ever given the history of the Japanese in space. Um, and so their specialty is in robotics, but
An
which is not surprising.
a human mind interface with them.
Yeah,
And that's why we have Elon Musk now, must connect through all that, does he?
oh yeah.
Via Africa
Elon Musk is an Anunnaki, also an Anunnaki in a human-looking avatar, which is why he doesn't pass as human for shit. you know, like when he's talking, he does not act human. He does not pass as human, and you can tell visibly that he is uncomfortable, and it's not stage fright. Okay, I know people with stage fright. That is not stage fright. That is stranger in a strange land. Um, and so how did we even get to this topic? Oh, and so World War II, we had the Germans in contact with these ETs, and through it was born Nachtwaffen, which is basically the Nazi military off-world, and also Yozora non Kunshu, which is the Japanese military off-world. And the German settlement, their confederation, I should say, of the various planets they've settled, which numbers at around 10,000, is called Der Bund Freier Deutscher Welten, the Federation of Free Germanic Planets.
Are they all
And
in different galaxies?
no,
Universes?
they're mostly in the Milky Way. I think there is something of a multiversal aspect to this. I'm not ready to disclose that yet because I'm not sure. I have not quite gained enough recall on that topic yet that I feel confident talking about it, so I'm not gonna. But I do think there is a multiversal aspect to it.
If I mentioned Outpost, the movies,
Outpost movies.
German machine, British officers trying to get access to it, and they all reanimate.
I don't believe I've seen that.
Oh, it's pretty scary, but it's sounds as if it's based. Okay, we'll move on. Yeah.
One movie that I would say that is kind of about this topic is Overlord. Have you ever seen that movie?
Okay.
Yeah,
Any names
Overlord.
in there that would bring people in?
It doesn't have names, but it's it does have, I can't remember the actors who are in it. But it's a horror movie basically that is about the black goo.
Right, okay.
Which I'm sure most of your audience knows about the black goo. And
Well,
it's about Nazis who use black goo during the war leading up to D-Day. Which was absolutely a real thing. It's a very scary movie.
Well, I had the commando from the British Army here who blew the place up after the British got all the stuff out of Thule Island.
Mm-hmm.
During the Falklands War.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's very much.
There are other deposits of it. There's a lot of the problems in the Middle East are caused by the fact that there is a massive black goo rock in Mecca, which it's not only there giving out, vibes.
Is that the black cube? That huge cube?
Yeah, yeah. It's not only there giving out vibes, which would be damaging enough, but the people actually walk up to it and put their hands on it and kiss it, and so they are ingesting black goo and absorbing it through their skin when they do this. So that explains why there's a lot of problems in that region.
Is that because it is propagating itself within those people?
Yes, it spreads.
Yeah.
And to remove it, the removal process kills the host, always. Now, if you have a regen tank, you can revive the person. But if you don't, then that's it.
Well, there's the Marconi deaths in England, about 20 or 40 scientists who were used to access this stuff that the British brought back from from Thule Island. They all died, self-terminated, in some very graphic ways.
Yeah. I believe this has something to do also with the death of Princess Diana.
Why? She simply didn't do what she was told and was trying to save people from
yes,
landmines. I think that's one way of covering
it was way more than landmines. She was trying to save people from being abducted and genetically engineered. And she was fighting off monstrosities. Look, this is going to be hard for people to wrap their minds around. And
tell us all about it.
Look, Diana was a super soldier. I have memories of her. She was a super soldier. She was not truly a Spencer or a Windsor. She was placed in this situation from the programs as an operation. And I remember there were people who begged her not to do this assignment because they said, "You'll never come home." And she said, "I know." but she did it anyway.
Now, what level are you talking about there? Before she was born, or soul contract, or what?
She was born, grew up, and then age regressed to a fetus and placed in Mrs. or Lady Spencer's womb. That level of thing. And so I don't know if growing up she knew it, but at some point in her life, someone must have activated her so that she did know what her mission was. And so she was spying on these families. And we all owe her a great debt. Because for one line that she spoke, they are not human.
And when did she speak that? What context?
During her very famous interview in '96, after she had divorced from William, or not William,
Charles.
Charles. After she had divorced Charles, she very famously spoke that line about the Windsors. She said, "They are not human," and she was right.
Would you care to mention what they are, or were?
They are Anunnaki Lyran hybrids. They are not Draco, in my opinion. They are Anunnaki Lyran hybrids. And the Lyrans are the lion people. They call themselves that. Even the ones who pass for human call themselves the lion people.
Is that why they use the lions in the...
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And the Draco, or not the Draco, sorry, the Anunnaki is where they get the dragon symbol, because the Anunnaki actually worship dragons. And so... I say "and so" a lot. I really should stop that. It makes it sound like I know what I'm about to say next.
Okay, that was about Diana. So
yes, Diana. She was killed. I've heard two theories as to how she was killed. Either she was killed with a heart attack gun, which makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people know about heart attack guns, and they do work on super soldiers, by the way.
I think they're trying that with me, but I mean, she was alive allegedly when she was taken out of the car. And
yes,
they finished her off in the ambulance.
There are photographs. I have a friend who knows someone who was able to give me photographs of her getting up and walking out of the car to the ambulance. She was fine. So, but the autopsy said it was a heart attack. So it could have been a heart attack gun, or it could have been... A very popular assassination method is a massive dose of salt, which 2 tablespoons of salt will kill a healthy adult.
As injected straight into the blood, or what? Or
even if you just take it, like if you just swallowed it. But if you inject it straight into the blood, yeah, that would be a pretty quick death.
That must be difficult. I mean, that would... Well, anyway.
It's not, and you can administer it in an IV. And it's impossible, basically, to detect. You know, unless you're specifically looking for it. You know, like, people doing autopsies don't usually test if someone is over-salinated. And also, within seconds after your death, the enzymes in the body begin breaking down the salt in the body so that the decomposition process can begin.
Yeah.
So it's both of those are plausible methods that could have been used for that execution.
So we're talking about Diana here and the ETs. What other train do you want to follow on that? You've said about the royal family being ETs, but nobody... I mean, they're not Draco. Does that make a difference?
Not ultimately, but I think also people overuse the Draco as a point of blame. It's more... These sort of things are more diverse than they're given credit for. And...
Well, David Icke calls them all out, the reptilians and stuff.
I know.
I mean, is that something you would agree or disagree with?
No, I strongly disagree with that. And also, just using the term reptilian doesn't tell you much. There are millions of reptilian species. Calling someone as a reptilian is like calling someone a person with brown eyes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not useful in any way, really. You need to be specific about which species you mean, and if you don't know which species you mean in your testimony, which a lot of people don't, I get it. It's hard. They deliberately wipe the names of a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the name of a species you're using, then describe them physically.
Now, are you talking
And
about entities living inside the human
no,
host, or are you talking about shapeshifters? If I was to
no,
say the Alien
I'm talking,
Races book
I'm
by,
talking about 3D physical ETs.
okay,
Yeah, I'm talking about 3D physical ETs that show up in people's testimonies, and I I don't automatically believe or disbelieve anyone's testimony. The I go when it corroborates mine is when I will generally believe it. Otherwise, I will say it sounds plausible. But the thing that I see is a lot of like anti-reptilian racism in general, because people don't know that there are so many different races of reptilians, and that's a problem.
where would they find that information out? I mean, I'm looking at the Russian KGB handbook thing from the 50s. But also,
That's a
there's
good
the
book.
Elena Denan book, which was based on that. I mean, are
Uh,
there any other sources?
um, I would not. I would not like. If I were to give my real opinions on Elena Denon, I think I would probably get your channel in trouble. I'm gonna give the politically correct version and say that I don't care for her and I think that her information is damaging. Um, and so I would say
Would the drawings in the book be valid? Because I have had people look at those and they respond to them. I'm not saying the
probably
content.
the drawings would probably be somewhat valid. Um, but the KGB book I like, and I also like Jake Muller's oh, what is his book called? Uh I'll send it to you after we hang up, and you can
Okay.
put it down below.
Yeah.
He has written two massive encyclopedias of ET races
Well,
that I
that is
think are
something I would
pretty
very
accurate.
much encourage people to get.
Yeah, I would encourage people to read those too. Um, and
Is that available apart from the PDF? I mean, is that available for bookshops? And we have a very good local
yes,
bookshop here who you can get material.
they're on Amazon in print. Yeah, so they could yeah, have your bookshop order some copies. Uh, and they so he's written massive. These two, they're like something like 800 pages each. Uh,
So
and they're very densely written. And I can corroborate a lot of the material in them. I'm mentioned many times in those two encyclopedias, so I back those up completely and utterly.
okay.
Those those two and the KGB manual are my top sources that I would point people to. Oh, and just a couple of days ago, I started reading a book called I have it right here. Uh, books. Come on. It's called Kalask, the Reptilian Question.
Is that an Irish name,
By
Talak? How do you spell that?
Kalask. By David Lauer. This German gentleman. It's funny, I seem to be surrounded by men named David who are connected to reptilians, but that's a whole other story. And so I would recommend this book. I started reading it. It has actually little auto writings in the Draconian language and in other reptilian languages that I recognize personally. I can back those up. Those are legitimate. Those aren't just gibberish. And I would also recommend looking back at the library of videos that Ilyana Kapulnik put out. quite a number of years ago on the Awakening Cosmic Reality channel.
Right. Is that that would be on YouTube?
Yes. And miraculously, most of her stuff is still up.
Right.
Some things I would not recommend. I would not recommend the Ashiana Dean material.
I have to concur on that. I sent them
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. I would not recommend her books.
I mean, I don't want to be having a hit list here, but
No, I look, I'm not speaking ill of any person. I
Yeah.
have held my tongue quite a lot on this show, by the way, on some of these people we've mentioned.
oh my gosh.
I I have been very measured and diplomatic. You have no idea. But or you probably have some idea, but anyway,
Well,
I
I'm
would
not
not
personally
recommend those
known for my
books
diplomacy.
particularly, and I would not particularly recommend David Icke material.
I have to say that when I was in the People's Voice, when I've said this many times before, that the People's Voice was this great hope, that with a public donation of over £350,000 about 12 years ago now, and something like that, and this lot of really honest volunteers got the whole thing going. David Icke would not allow me to see him into his eyes. He would not allow me to see his eyes. He would immediately do this, or turn round by 180 degrees, so I wouldn't be able to see.
I've heard other people say that, so.
Oh, I just thought it was me he didn't like. You mean there's other people he doesn't like?
Yeah, there's other people he doesn't like.
I thought I was special. Well, some people say I'm special, but not in the way you'd hope.
No, you're not the only one he doesn't like. There's,
in my opinion,
look,
and I'll state it.
I don't want to mention names.
well,
Okay, I don't want to mention names,
Well,
but there are other
yeah.
there are other high up UFO researchers who have done work similar to you who he doesn't like. I'm gonna just say that and leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm merely a meek man from the big city of Belfast.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm merely a meek man from the big city of Colorado Springs. So.
My God.
Yeah.
But we started out very pessimistically. I think there were expressions of go forth and multiply used. What is there anything that people can do to do this? And again, you've got a huge volume of material available. But
yeah, and I definitely want to pick this up and do more shows like this, because I have there are all sorts of, we can get into like actual memory stories that I have. I don't know of things people can do.
Because another guy he's local, he's a lot of stuff, a lot of Nazi stuff around Cornwall.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and that's by a researcher down there called Bob Osborne, who bought a house used by these guys. See, technocratic people.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like having a war with Germany, and then you have your girlfriend is the direct relative of the Red Baron, and that didn't cause any problems down in Cornwall during the war. D.H. Lawrence, the author.
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia, right?
No, D.H. Lawrence, the Women in Love, all that stuff, books.
That Lawrence. Yeah.
He was there during World War I, and his squeeze was the direct cousin to the Red Baron, and the locals felt that was inappropriate. Anyway, that old thing.
Yeah.
And then our king was German as well. I mean, it's just.
Yeah,
what a lovely war, and then have a German royal family. Your king that you're fighting for is, it's all a bit odd.
Well, yeah. Well, they put out a statement after World War I. We cease to be German, because apparently you can just say you're not an ethnicity.
Well, you might say that. I couldn't possibly comment. But what you were saying is that it was easy to do that because the newspapers told you what was going on, and the rest of the people had
Exactly. Yeah. People just People go along with what the culture tells them to. No, it's
Well, they don't have the power. Is anything
hmm
individually as an individual from a power, an individual's intention can
yeah.
sometimes cause have a great
Yeah,
effect.
Margaret Thatcher was absolutely full of it when she said there is no such thing as society.
Are you suggesting that you disagreed with Mrs. Thatcher?
Oh, is that controversial?
Well, we certainly don't have any of that sort of thing happening here now.
Oh, okay, good.
But he said,
Yeah.
but would you like to wrap it up for now? We've gone up for an hour and 45 roughly on this section. What do you want to get
Yeah.
across this time? It's
I
very
would like
important that we go through this and understand.
I would like to mention a couple of names, two names of people who no, yeah, two names of people who used to be on the scene, who you knew back in your early days, who people probably don't know now. People coming into this now don't
Yeah,
know who these people are.
yeah,
Nowadays, they come into this scene, they know, Penny Bradley, Jack Flynn, uh, Ileana, me, etc. Aaron McCollum, Alara Blackwell.
ah,
I would like to mention both of those names.
I had a very
I
she's a great girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, if there's any chance she still listens to your stuff and she hears this and she wants to contact me, please do.
Okay.
She was actually the very first person that I ever recognized when I was finding my way back into this, when I was finding my way into the community. She was the first person I recognized consciously, and I'd had a memory of her a long time ago.
She's a
I
good
won't
biker
state,
girl. No
yeah,
messing with her. Great.
yeah, I won't state the memory because it wasn't terribly personal, but I don't want to put words in
Yeah, yeah,
anyone's
yeah.
mouth. And Aaron McCollum, I also recognized very early on. Um, he, I believe, he has admitted to abducting people, uh, and I was one of the kids who he was part of the abduction of. He was part of my very first abduction. He was in the back of the truck that drove me to Cheyenne Mountain Complex the very first time in 2007.
Wow.
Um, and I don't think given his body of work that he would mind me stating that much. So if either of these people who have not been on the scene in 15, 20 years would like to reach out to me, they're welcome to do so.
Right.
So
And just to nail it quickly, how would they do that?
either on my Facebook, John Whitberg, or by my email, which will be in the description.
Could you just say it for the purpose
Uh,
of
KyleDellschau@gmail.com, KyleDellschau@gmail.com. No characters, all lowercase, no special letters, anything.
well, it's been good fun. Do you recognize this diagram here? The plan for space. It's
Is that the Reagan one?
the Rockwell International one. It's so dense.
Oh, no, I don't know that one.
It's all it just happens to be in shots. That's all.
Yeah. I recognize a couple of those symbols at your back left
Yeah, that's the
on the
shuttle.
board.
That's the shuttle. That's the first shuttles.
Yeah,
I
I
got this in
recognize.
a flea market, and don't mention fleas, but they this is actually the frame is so heavy. I actually had it on something, then it suddenly just fell, but I've never put it back up. But the space shuttle is great people. Gary
Yeah,
McKinnon, he really stirred things as well, long time ago now. The
yeah,
British. Anyway, that's another maybe for another day.
yeah. All right, so we'll pick this up. This has been a good talk.
Good fun. covering areas I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected. But that's fun.
I agree.
It's good fun. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the
Well,
point. I mean, I would like to go through maybe your experience here with
oh,
British bases, but I didn't want
yeah.
to repeat the works you've done apart from a
Well, I
contextual.
haven't talked about that much. And by the way, I did come into this partly to talk about unusual things because, look, Miles, I have reached a level of prominence within this sphere
Yeah,
that I can pretty much pick and choose who I speak to and what about.
yeah.
And so I did pick and choose you and this today because I realized I would get to talk about something new. So,
Well, thank you very much.
hmm
It's all unexpected. I think things
yeah,
happening unexpected is the best way to do it these days.
yeah. All right. Well,
Okay,
I'll see you.
I'll put this together tomorrow, and I'll put it up as a basis 167, a whole
All
new
right.
number.
Hmm. All right. I will see you around.
Thank you.
hmm
All the best. Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, that was all unexpected, and it's good fun. And we've had a few things flashing here, switching on and switching off and things. And that'll be basis 167, part 1. All in one go. Everything else is on basistv.com. That's a subscription-based thing to get access to the whole archive. And information about the conferences is on basistv.org. And thank you very much for John Whitberg.